Alright, part 2 of chapter 6, I believe, yeah. When I came to, I was being bounced around. I ached and smarted, and I wondered dimly where I was. I tried to think, but there was a high-pitching scream going on, and I couldn't tell whether it was inside my head or out. Then I realized it was a siren. The fuzz, I thought dully. The cops have come for us. I tried to swallow a groan and wished wildly for soda. Someone with a cold, wet rag was gently sponging off my face, and a voice said, "I think he's coming around." I opened my eyes. It was dark. I'm moving, I thought. Are they taking me to jail? Where? I asked hoarsely, not able to get anything else out of my mouth. My throat was sore. I blinked at the stranger sitting beside me. But he wasn't a stranger. I'd seen him before. "Take it easy, kid. You're in an ambulance." "Where's Johnny?" I cried, frightened at being in this car with a stranger. "And Dallas?" "They're in the other ambulance, right behind us. Just calm down. You're going to be okay. You just passed out." "I didn't either," I said with the bored, tough voice reserved for strangers and cops. "Dallas hit me. How come?" "Because your back was in flames, that's why." I was surprised. "It was? Golly, I didn't feel it." "Don't hurt." "We put it out before you got burned. That jacket saved you from a bad burning. Maybe saved your life. You just keeled over from smoke inhalation and a little shock. Of course, that slap on the back didn't help much." I remembered who he was then. Jerry, somebody or another, who was too heavy to get through the window. He must be a schoolteacher, I thought. "Are you taking us to the police station?" I was still a little mixed up as to what was coming off. The police station? It was his turn to be surprised. "What would we want to take you to the police station for?" "We're taking all three of you to the hospital." I let his first remark slide by. "Are Johnny and Dally all right?" "Which one's which?" "Johnny's black hair. Dally's the mean-looking one." He studied his wedding ring. Maybe he's thinking about his wife, I thought. I wish he'd say something. "We think the towhead kid is going to be all right. He burned one arm pretty badly, though, trying to drag the other kid out the window. Johnny, well, I don't know about him. A piece of timber caught him in the back, and he might have broken his back, and he was pretty burned severely. He passed out before he got out the window. They're giving him plasma now." He must have seen the look on my face because he hurriedly changed the subject. "I swear, you three are the bravest kids I've seen in a long time. First you and the black-haired kid climbing in the window, and then the tough-looking kid going back to save him. Miss O'Brien and I thought you were sent straight from heaven. Or are you just professional heroes or something?" "Sent from heaven? Had you gotten a good look at Dallas?" "No, we're greasers," I said. I was too worried and scared to appreciate the fact that he was trying to be funny. "You're what?" "Greasers, you know, like hoods, JDs. Johnny is wanted for murder, and Dallas has a record with the fuzz a mile long." "Are you kidding me?" Johnny stared at me as if I thought I was still in shock or something. "I'm not. Take me to town and you'll find out pretty quick. We're taking you to the hospital there anyway. The address card in your billfold said that's where you live. Your name's really Ponyboy?" "Yeah, even on my birth certificate. Don't bug me about it." I felt weak. "Are the little kids okay?" "Just fine. A little frightened, maybe. There were some short explosions right after you all got out. Sounded just exactly like gunfire." "Gunfire. There went our gun. And gone with the wind." "Were we sent from heaven?" I started to laugh weakly. I guess that guy knew how close to hysterics I really was, for he talked to me in a low, soothing voice all the way to the hospital. I was sitting in the waiting room, waiting to hear how Dolly and Johnny were. I'd been checked over. Except for a few burns and a big bruise on my back, I was all right. I'd watched them bring Dolly and Johnny in on stretchers. Dolly's eyes were closed, but when I spoke, he had tried to grin and told me that if I ever did anything stupid like that again, he'd beat the tar out of me. He was still swearing at me when they took him on in. Johnny was unconscious. I'd been afraid to look at him, but I was just relieved to see his face wasn't burnt. He just looked very pale and still sort of sick. I would have cried at the sight of him, so still except I couldn't out in front of people. Jerry had stayed with me the whole time. He kept thanking me for getting the kids out. He didn't seem to mind us being hoods. I told him the whole story, starting when Dallas and Johnny and I had met at the corner of Pickett and Sutton. I left out the part about the gun and our hitchhiking a ride in the freight car. He was real nice about it, and said that being heroes would help get us out of trouble, especially since it was self-defense and all. I was sitting there smoking a cigarette when Jerry came back from a phone call. He stared at me for a second. "You shouldn't be smoking." I was startled. "How come?" I looked at my cigarette. It looked okay to me. I looked around for a no smoking sign and couldn't find one. "How come?" "Why, Jerry stammered. "You're too young." "I am? I never thought about it. Everyone in our neighborhood, even the girls, smoked. Except for Derry. He was too proud of his athletic health to risk a cigarette. We had all started smoking at an early age. Johnny had been smoking since he was 9. Steve started at 11, so no one thought it was unusual when I started. I was a weed fiend in my family. Soda smoked only to steady his nerves when he thought he looked, or when he wanted to look tough. Jerry simply sighed and then grinned. There are some people here to see you. Claim to be your brothers or something. I leapt up and ran for the door, but it was already open, and Soda had me in a big bear hug and was swinging me around. I was so glad to see him I could have bawled. Finally he set me down and looked at me. He pushed my hair back. "Oh, Pony Boy, your hair. Your tough, tough hair." Then I saw Derry. He was leaning in the doorway, wearing his olive jeans and black shirt. He was still tall, broad-shouldered Derry, but his fists were jammed in his pockets and his eyes were pleading. I looked at him. He swallowed and said in a husky voice, "Pony Boy." I let go of Soda and stood there for a minute. Derry didn't like me. He had driven me away that night. He had hit me. Derry had hollered at me all the time. He didn't want to hang out with me. Suddenly I realized, horrified, that Derry was crying. He didn't make a sound, but tears were running down his cheeks. I hadn't seen him cry in years. Not even when Mom and Dad had been killed. I remember the funeral. I had sobbed in spite of myself. Soda had broken down and bawled like a baby. But Derry had only stood there, his fists in his pockets, and that look on his face. The same helpless, pleading voice that he was wearing now. In that second, what Soda and Dally and Two-Bit had been trying to tell me came through. Derry did care about me. Maybe as much as he cared about Soda. And because he cared, he was trying too hard to make something of me. When he yelled, "Pony, where have you been all this time?" he meant, "Pony, you've scared me to death. Please be careful, because I couldn't stand if anything happened to you." Derry looked down, turned away silently. Suddenly, I broke out of my daze. "Derry!" I screamed, and the next thing I knew, I had him around the waist and was squeezing the daylights out of him. "Derry," I said, "I'm sorry." He was stroking my hair, and I could hear the sobs racking him as he fought to keep back tears. "Oh, Pony, I thought we lost you. Like we did Mom and Dad." That was his silent fear then, of losing another person he loved. I remember how close he and Dad had been. I wondered how I could ever thought of him hard and unfeeling. I listened to his heart pounding through his t-shirt and knew everything was going to be okay now. I had taken the long way around, but I was finally home. To stay. Alright. It's the end of chapter 6.